Alright, so I feel like I start every video out like that. Alright, so now after we did our foam rolling, kind of got loosened up a little bit. If we were sore, we kind of took care of that. Got some circulation. Now we're going to get into our mobility flow on the flow. So I like to start on our back, just kind of ease into things. So if you're doing this first thing in the morning or throughout your day from sitting and you're tired or stiff from kind of being in a chair, I like to start slow. Once you do this more and more often and you're moving more in your day, you may find you're not as stiff or you can kind of loosen up a little bit quicker or easier. That's great. So then you can kind of pass some of these and then just use it as a reference point every once in a while, whether it's once or twice a week or on certain days that are really stressful. Then you can kind of start from base or phase 1 here on the floor, but then just kind of pick and choose based on what you may need by exploring movements. That's the big takeaway, is just move and explore movements safely. All right, so on our back, feet on the floor. I like to go arms apart. We're just gonna go side to side. Trying to loosen up that back. You may get a couple snap, crackle, pops. Then anywhere between 5 to 10 each side, whatever you feel. We're gonna go side to side again with our ankle over our knee. Now kind of moving the hips, get a little bit of internal, external rotation here. Do it both sides. So everything we do, we want to do both sides symmetrically, or be symmetrically, be even. So if you find one side's a little tighter, you can do more on that side because you may need more. But we still don't want to neglect one side, especially if it's tight. You want to spend more time there and breathe. So now we'll go legs up, side to side. You can slow this down. I wouldn't recommend speeding it up too much. I'm kind of going quick just because I want to give a visual for you so you have an idea of what to do. You can always pause this, spend a little bit more time, and then kind of press play again. Then we're going to go legs straight. I'm going to bring one leg up and over this way, and then out here. So we're going to get a nice stretch in the hip, the adductor, kind of swing in both directions. Hey now. And then we'll do that to both sides. Anywhere between 10 on each side for these until it really starts to feel like it's loosening up or getting a little bit easier. You can get your leg a little bit higher. I like to use my hand as a reference point to see how close I'm able to get. Then we're gonna turn over to our stomach. And I'm gonna bring my hands out to the side. These are called scorpions. I'm gonna bring this leg up and over, try to get it to that hand. And then I'm gonna switch sides. So I'm alternating every time. You can spend more time here if it's a little stiff or tight, stretching out that hip flexor, a little bit of the quad, a little bit of that mid-back, thoracic. However you may need, preferably 10 times each side. Then we're gonna go into these reverse snow angels. Keep the chin tucked, reach up, bring it around, keep the thumbs up as long as you can, and then we're gonna rotate. I don't know if you heard those pops, but I always get a little adjustment here. So getting handcuffed, then shoulders back and down. I never want to see shrugging up, but shrugging down. So think shoulders away from the ears, reach up with the hands, rotate, bring it back up, and then you can bring it down. That's 1. We're gonna repeat that anywhere between 3 to 10 times. Whatever you may need. Once again, I think 5 is okay. It's a good number. And then nice and controlled. I don't want you to rush through these because we really want to get the muscles in between the shoulder blades, the lower traps, the rhomboids, really kind of set to get our shoulders down and back. So whatever we do throughout the day, we have better posture. Or if we're about to start a training session, we kind of get ourselves in a good position and start to feel those muscles working. So after we work our snow angels, which if you can't go back here, that's totally fine. We can just go here. Keeping tension in the bottoms of the shoulder blades. Keep those shoulders down and back. Okay? Then we're gonna get up here, do a couple cat camels. Now, I don't want to see the low back move so much. You can, however, I really want to focus on the mid back for myself. So you can kind of move both, but I like to really sit back on the heels a little bit more. In this tabletop position, keep the arms locked, shoulders down and back, and then I want to push myself away. You can tuck the chin down, and then I don't really look up so much, but rather just kind of relax the neck, and then push away, tucking down. We're gonna go for about 10 to 15 there. Now, here's a common theme today is working on that thoracic mobility. So we're getting some rotation here. I'm gonna reach down, and then I'm gonna switch. Try to get the shoulder down to the ground if you can, really reaching. If that's very difficult for you, you can get your handy dandy foam roller, and what we could do is we could put our hand on the foam roller, our wrist, and use the foam roller to help us roll and reach. You're gonna feel a nice stretch all along the back, the shoulders there. We'll go for about 10 each side. Then we're gonna get up. Now remember, this is just our mobility flow. So we're not doing our core stabilization right now. If you wanted to, it's a great time to do our bird dogs, which I have a video of. Okay, holding, keeping it tucked, keeping it tight. Doing that for each side. Okay, nice and controlled, very slow. I'm rushing it just to show. But this is a great time if you want to do your bird dogs, your side planks, our breathing drills, kind of our pelvic tilts if you need to, which I'll show real quick. Hips tucked, kind of working on this position of the pelvis and that pelvic control while we breathe into the belly, okay? So if you have some more lower back troubles or sciatica, or you're just stiff in the hips, we can always start with that from the get-go, but we're gonna move on from that. So I lied, we're not gonna get up yet. We're gonna do one more thing and then we're gonna get up. So now what I want us to do is we're gonna get into the hip 90-90 position. So 90 degrees of the hip, knee, and the ankle for both legs, okay? I'm gonna sit up nice and tall. If you're having trouble here, you can use your hands. What I wanna do is just go side to side here. If we're really tight, kind of loosen up the hips here, loosey-goosey. Kind of go side to side here just to kind of get it moving. Once it gets a little bit easier, maybe after 3 to 5 times each side, we're gonna lean forward. I'm gonna put this hand down, I'm gonna reach with this one. So kind of like the pigeon stretch. We're stretching out this glute and I'm gonna reach to work on that mid-back again. And then I'm gonna go to the opposite side, reach down, and I'm reaching through. So I'll show one more time here. Hand down, and I'm reaching through underneath this hand. Trying to rotate, and then come up, and we're gonna do both sides, anywhere between 5, 10 is pushing it. I think just 5 each should feel good. And just remember, with everything we're doing, breathing deep into the diaphragm, let the belly expand, deep, slow breaths. Let yourself relax and adapt those positions so we don't tense up. I don't want to breathe up here in the neck and the shoulders. I want to breathe deeper here. Nice and slow. Let our parasympathetic nervous system take over so we can adapt these positions. Okay? So after our hip there, if you feel like you need a little bit more on the hips, if you're tight or restricted, we can do some internal rotations here. Like I said, if you can, hands up. If not, we can go down, keep this brace. We're gonna kind of do some internal rotations there, where I pick this foot up, keeping everything down, and then we'll also lift that knee up, okay? Working on that external rotation there. 5 to 10, whatever, on each if you're feeling a little tight or tender or stiff, doing that on both sides, okay? Now we're gonna get up. I promise. Up, no, yeah. All right, so now that we're up, we're gonna work in our lunge position. I like to start with the lateral lunge. So feet really wide. I have another video on this. Just going side to side here, hinging back with the hips, reaching forward, keeping this leg locked. So when I go to this side, the opposite side is locked, so I don't put tension on the knee. Keep that locked. Get a nice stretch in the hamstring and adductor there. If that's too tight for you, you could lift this up. You get a deeper stretch in the hamstring. But if you keep that foot down, we'll get a stretch in the adductors here. Side to side, 5 to 10 on each side. Nice and controlled. If you need to spend more time there, stay here. You can kind of rock back and forth here with the hips, making sure we open up the hips, keeping our weight on the heel, so I'm not coming up on the toe. Okay, I'm not letting the knee come forward or in, really opening it up. Nice and stable, each side. Take your time, breathe. If you need to spend a little more time there, please do. Then we're gonna go into our windmills. So, feet outside of shoulder width. If you can, go one leg slightly back. But if that's hard to remember and you get confused, you can just go feet both straight. I like to go 1 foot slightly back, so this foot, if I were to draw a line, goes to that heel or that ankle, and that same leg that's back, the arm that's up. I'm gonna hinge the hips, reach down as I rotate up. Okay, we're just gonna go up and down here. You can hang here a little bit more if you need. Breathe, but don't let the shoulder round forward. You wanna lengthen. Okay, we're gonna do about 5 to 10 each side. Then we'll go into our lunge. Now here I like to do a few things. One, I like to come down to the floor in like a push-up position, okay? Back leg straight. Rock back and forth here, get a little stretch in the hip flexor and the groin. Open up that hip, so push this knee out, rocking back and forth. And now what I like to do is I wanna reach up. Lengthen so I'm not shrugged over. Push away, reach up, and then reach down. Try to get the elbow down and reaching underneath this arm again. Holding each for about a 3 count, and we'll do about 5 each side. And then we'll switch. You can either switch like this, or you can come up and switch, but I want to make sure we have an even distance. That's why I like to switch the hands, so one leg isn't closer than the other one, so we get a nice even stretch. So doing both sides, rock back and forth, push out, rock back and forth. Then we're gonna add the rotation, holding each for 3 seconds, doing 5 each side. Once we do those lunges, then we're just gonna get in this lunge here. I wanna get that back knee down. So last time we were straight, now we're down here on the knee. Not on the floor, just right above it. So we're using these muscles here, keeping us in this position. I'm gonna reach forward with the same leg, or with the arm of the same leg that's back. Kind of reaching forward as much as I can without letting my back arch. Breathe deep into the belly. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Really reach as much as you can. Get a nice stretch in the hip flexor right there and that psoas. You can also reach up and over. We just want to get a nice stretch here while we breathe, and then we're going to switch sides. 5 breaths is enough. If you want to go up to 8, that's great. Stick to 5 for now. Build up your tolerance and your work capacity of how long you can hold this position while we breathe. It's a lot more challenging than it seems. So we do both sides, really reaching. We're done with our lunges. Now what we're gonna do, kind of cross the foot over one another, hinge the hips. Just working on our hip hinge here. Kind of keep alternating, get a nice stretch. Go ahead, come back up. Hinge the hips, keeping the back flat. So I don't wanna round over to reach. I wanna keep everything locked in, moving through my hips. So I'm not losing anything from my spine. I'm not moving anything. I'm not losing any tension. I'm not folding over. Good posture. Hinge back with the hips. Reach down, get a stretch in the hamstring. Squeeze the glutes to come back up. These are pretty easy for you. You can go into our single leg hinge. And if those are easy for you, we can go into our airplanes where we're adding that rotation. Kind of build upon it. That's the ultimate goal there. Being able to hinge on one leg and rotating. External rotation, rotating out, and then internal here, keeping ourselves as parallel to the floor, really stabilizing, strengthening the foot and the hip. Okay? So, that's a pretty good general base. If you feel you need a little bit more for the quads or the hips or the groin, feel free to do so. We can always go into our little squat series if you're pressed on time and you can't get through all of those, but you still want to add some rotation, opening up the hips. And we can kind of combine our hamstring stretch here, bending over, hinging without rounding the back, right? So feet outside of shoulder width or your squat stance, whatever's comfortable. Hinge, stretch the hamstring, hold for 3 seconds, squat down, opening up the hips. being stable, right? So I don't want, if someone were to come push me, I'm not gonna fall over because I'm not having all my weight on my toes or too much on my heels. So nice and stable, knees apart. Then we kind of reach down to the floor. And now I get on my tippy toes a little bit more, forcing the knees out with my elbows, opening up the groin and the hips. Hold that for 3 seconds, rock back. Add some rotation here, each side. Get back in the hamstring stretch. Squeeze the glutes, come up, and that's 1. And we can run through that 3 to 5 times. So if you're pressed on time, you can always just add that one too. But if you're pressed on time and you don't want to do all these lunges or whatever, that's a great little general to start for our movement. We get some rotation when we're reaching. We open up the hips, get the hamstrings, the groin. So it's a nice go-to. It's a nice one. If I were to make 2, if we press on time but we're okay for 1 more, then I would go to our world's greatest stretch in that lunge position where we open up the hip, rotate that way. We can also get that hip. So if you can run through all of those, great. If you press on time, kind of pick and choose. But like I said, start with a good general base, doing most of them, and then see what you may need and go from there, okay?